This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Riley Smith.
Well, good day and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. Today is Thursday, October 6th, 2022. We're so glad you could join us today. In today's episode of Ag Matters PM, I talk with Iowa State Climatologist Dr. Glsen about the U.S. Drought Monitor and the conditions that we are seeing in Iowa. We'll also take a look at that ag weather outlook, but first, let's run down the markets.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
We are at the end of another trading day in the ag marketplace, and for a bit of analysis, we go to Jacob Burks of agmarket.net. Jacob, what do we see going on in the grains today?
I see some sell-off, some risk-off going into today, and it's kind of carried over through the night session. We had actually ended up here with the corn down about 8 cents on the day, which was about 4 cents off their lows. Corn or the beans, the same type of story, stayed negative most of the day. We saw November trade down as low as $13.50 on the dot, and we're going to end up closing here above, I think, some pivotal numbers. That is going to show a little bit of life here. We closed about 9 cents over today's low, so still down a dime on the day in the soybeans, but above the lows from July. So I think that could hold a little bit of positiveness into this market here. Wheat market sold off here pretty hard. A lot of volatility with the dollar in there, a lot of volatility with what's going on overseas. That wheat market sold off 25 cents today in Chicago, Kansas City, Minneapolis, all three complexes. But here we're going to be about 11 cents off the lows as we wrap up the day, down 18 cents.
All right, and export sales were pretty soft again this week. How is that weighing in on the marketplace?
First of all, if you go and look just at corn, China is looking to import like the smallest amount since 2020. So their lack of interest in our export market right now really doesn't bode well for what we how our marketplace is set up, knowing that the South American crop is anticipated being pretty big, in coming March timeframe. I don't know if that's what's making us back away or the true lack of demand. I think that's what's questionable right now for everyone in the export market. The fact that we can't get barges down the river at full capacity is another thing that's not helping us out in our Gulf program. So I think that is what's the result of all those problems right now is the fact that our exports will have to come down. If they bring them down in this report next week, we'll see. But it's going to be hard to catch up whenever this is the time frame that we're usually kicking out a lot of soybeans, out of the United States. So, but I think that as we go forward, that'll be the focus of what gets, if we get rains, if we get the PNW kicked off. But if it's a true lack of demand from China, that could spell for a little bit of negativeness for our bean price.
And then what are we seeing on the other side of the marketplace as well in the livestock complex?
Well, it was kind of a ho-hum day, which is kind of all right every now and then. The dollar index was up big. Exports and the pork was actually pretty good, but the beef was pretty stagnant. That's the beef exports, and what we do with the macroeconomic talk in the cattle market is really big. And I think if you have a recessionary, like not a soft landing, all those terms that are being used, basically, if the economy goes even worse, the beef will pay the price. And so we have dwindling cattle numbers, but our beef prices are going to be hard to maintain. So today we had a quiet trade, less than $1 range across most of the cattle complex. Front months were up about 60 cents. Back months were down a little bit. Feeder cattle ended up going positive one time throughout the day. Couldn't hold on to that, but when you see a $2 range and we closed down $1, it really wasn't that volatile of a day in the feeder cattle market. Hogs, on the other hand, the front months continue to come up. Index will be coming up a little bit as well. The cutout prices were slightly higher, so $1.50 higher on the October. 92.37 is where we closed there, and then the the back months, we stayed up $1.50, throughout most of this year anyway.
Now, would some of that demand in the hog market kind of come from the HPAI scare we're seeing right now? Avian influenza kind of coming back into the States a little bit, and usually pork, they call it the other white meat. So some of that demand goes there. But then again, if the consumer wants poultry, they're going to buy poultry. So what do we think's going on there?
Well, I think you summed it up pretty good. You answered it probably better than I can, but I think that your value meat is what we're looking at, right? So what's going to be the cheap meat? And I think that when you see problems and lack of trust into the poultry side of things, I think that it's obvious that the demand will come to the pork market. And I think if you've been to the store lately to buy beef, buying that cheap steak is kind of hard to do. You seeing a little bit of the box beef narrow up together a little bit as far as the choice and select price, and I think you'll continue to see that. This is a year that we might see more imports, growing, and our exports decreasing in the beef. So, what's the reason for the demand in the hogs? Right now, if you want to look at it, why are we higher? It's because it's technically traded, and this market is found a little bit of a bottom, kind of U-shaped bottom, and we got some interest and buyers' interest down here. I would be a little bit aware from a technical perspective that the head and shoulders, if you listened to Brian's technical analysis on Wednesday, there is still a little bit of pressure that could take place in that hog market as well. But, for this point right now, we found a little bit of buyers, a little bit of buying interest, and some of that buying interest is probably stemmed from some of the problems that they're having in the poultry industry.
All right, Jacob, lots of great information today for those of our listeners and our viewers who would like to get in touch and learn more from the folks at agmarket.net. How can they do that?
I would encourage you to look at our 30-day free trial of our agmarket.net intel. Just simply go to our website. We're going to be having a conference here that we'll be asking people to sign up for in February. We'd love to see you at that. But you just want to give us a quick call. Call us here at 608-384-5438.
All right, Jacob, it's been great catching up with you today, and we look forward to speaking with you again soon.
Riley, thanks for having me. Get some sleep.
That again was Jacob Burks of agmarket.net. We'll go ahead and take a look at how those numbers closed. That's courtesy of the folks at Bar Chart. December corn is down 8.5 at 675.5. November soybeans down 11 3/4 at 13.58 even. December soybean meal down 5.10 at 393.40. December soybean oil up 48 cents at 66.02. Chicago wheat down 23 even at 8.79 even. Minneapolis spring wheat down 19 even at 9.62.5. Kansas City hard red wheat down 25 1/4 at 9.65 even. And December oats down 5.5 at 3.97 even. On the mark, October live cattle up 65 at 145.32. October feeders down 82 at 175.72. October lean hogs up 157 at 92.37. Pork cutout up 112 at 88.42. And Class 3 milk up a penny at 22.12. And that's been a check of the markets here on Ag Matters PM. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break to hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, I talk with Iowa State Climatologist Dr. Justin Glsen. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. Well, like I said earlier, I talked with Iowa State Climatologist Dr. Justin Glsen today about the U.S. Drought Monitor and the conditions we are seeing in Iowa. We covered everything from the drought we're seeing right now, how that could get alleviated in the future, and even some of the other issues we've seen, like the low water levels in the Mississippi River. We're here with Iowa State Climatologist Dr. Justin Glsen to talk about a bit of the climatological patterns we've seen in Iowa recently. So first off, Justin, let's talk a little bit about the recent U.S. Drought Monitor.
Good morning, Riley. Nice to be with you as always. Yes, so we've seen expansion of drought across the state of Iowa, namely in that northwestern drought region that's been in existence for the last last 2 to 3 years, but also expansion of D1 and D2 drought across southern Iowa. We see that signal as more of a short-term 6 to 8 month drought, as opposed to that northwestern corner where we do have D3. Those are precipitation deficits on the order of 2 to 2.5 years.
Right, and of course, right now with harvest, we're not necessarily thinking about drought as much as we would be, but what are the impacts that we'll see from that drought going into the next crop year?
Sure, yeah. So dry conditions are great during harvest. Now we have to be cognizant of those dry conditions, coupled with windy conditions and lower relative humidities, because we can have field fires, and we've seen those in northwestern Iowa. So we want our farmers to be safe out there. But when we talk about drought and harvest and a drier pattern, what we're looking for after harvest is to start replenishing those subsoil moisture profiles for the next growing season, especially before the ground freezes in winter. So having timely rainfalls or above average rainfalls in fall really do help replenish the tank for the next growing season. We saw that last year in October with the eighth wettest October on record, with widespread drought across much of the northern three quarters of the state. We're seeing a dry signal right now in the short term, so we really need something to jostle the large scale atmosphere to break this dry spell that we've been in.
That kind of leads into my next question. Was last year kind of an exception for the month of October, or is it usually, we get some good rainfalls then?
We do get some good rainfalls. We have 150 years of precipitation records for the state of Iowa. So being the eighth wettest October is an extreme, having that much rainfall. In fact, we had a month to a month and a half's worth of rainfall over 7 to 10 days. So if we look at the trends that we've seen over the last several decades, our falls are actually becoming wetter. So seeing this dry signal is not meshing with the trends. But yes, the eighth wettest October last year was definitely something we don't see that often.
And then when is the point that we usually see that frost? What's kind of the cutoff where we need to see rains before then?
Yeah, so climatologically, the first killing frost and freeze, so the 32 and 28 degree season-ending frost or freeze, are typically into the first and second week of October for northern Iowa, and then a little later for southern Iowa. So we're right in, basically where we should be in terms of the possibility of a killing freeze. And with this cold front moving through over the next 2 days, there is an expectation out there that many stations will hit 28 degrees or lower.
All right. And then, say we don't get quite as much rain as we would like to see, and we have a little trouble replenishing those soil levels. When can we see maybe a little bit of a makeup period for getting that water back in the ground?
Yeah, you brought up when the soil freezes. So we can get a snowpack over winter time. And then we like to see what we call the 40-20 rule when we do have a good snowpack on the ground as we start to move through late winter into spring. 40s during the day, 20s at night. So we have a gentle thaw and refreeze cycle as the subsoil moisture or as the profile starts to thaw out. So we get gentle infiltration of the melting snowpack as opposed to getting into a very warm period with the frost still in the soil, and you get runoff into the stream system. And that's where we see the possibility of spring flooding. So we would like to see a good snowpack, but also those ideal conditions to get infiltration of melting snowpack into the soil profile.
All right. And then, of course, we just got into fall, but we've already been talking about winter a lot today. What are we expecting to see there? I kind of heard rumblings earlier that we could see a little bit more of a mild winter this year.
So, being a season out, it's difficult to look into that crystal ball to see what the conditions could be. We're in the third year of La Nina, which, going back to 1950, we only have a few of these events that have lasted that long. And again, La Nina is that cold sea surface temperature anomaly in the Pacific that impacts where the jet stream sets up over the United States. So in a typical La Nina winter, we would see above average precipitation chances in the Ohio Valley, in the Great Lakes, and then up into the Pacific Northwest. Drier conditions across the southern states. Iowa just happens to be right in the middle of those two probabilistic features. So it really depends on where that jet stream sets up. But in the modeling, we're seeing the possibility of La Nina tailing off into winter, which would give us a possibility of a pattern shift. So we're definitely going to see snowfall events, and we're definitely going to see colder air outbreaks. But we're a little too far out to really get good guidance in terms of wintertime conditions.
All right, and then shifting a little bit to something else that's had a wide impact across not only the ag industry but the entire U.S. economy in general, is that the Mississippi River is pretty low right now, and it's really affecting the ability to get barges out into the Gulf and get that shipping process going. What could we hope to see from weather patterns to kind of replenish those water levels while also maintaining the dry conditions that will allow harvest to keep going?
That's the $1 million question right there. It's always a balancing act between the hydrologics that impact our stream flows and our river levels, and harvest and drought. So you have all these, you have three balls in the air when you're juggling these things. We would like to see hydrologically above average rainfalls as we move into fall and early winter, to help raise the stream flows, to help get more moisture into the subsoil moisture profiles. Soils are so dry that basically all the moisture that we get that comes out of the air, precipitation wise, should soak in if it's a gentle rainfall. So we wouldn't see an impact on stream flows initially. We would need that subsoil moisture profile to become saturated, so we do actually get runoff into those basins on the Mississippi and the Missouri. This is impactful for the upper Midwest as well. So all that water flows south. So it's not just what we see in Iowa, but also within the Mississippi basin that will impact those levels. Again, we see this reflected in drought. Expansion of drought means lack of rainfall, and hence those river levels are low.
All right, Justin. Well, lots of great information today. For those of our listeners and our viewers who would like to get in touch and just talk about the climate patterns in Iowa, how can they do that?
Yeah, great question. So Google Iowa Climatology Bureau. It'll bring you to the Department of Agriculture's website with my climatology page. My direct phone line is 515-281-8981. And shoot me an email if you like, justin.glisen, Glisan, at iowaagriculture.gov.
That again was Iowa State Climatologist Dr. Justin Glisen. And speaking of the weather, let's go ahead and take a look at that ag weather outlook. Well, as I'm sure that all of you have noticed, that the temperatures right now are cooling off quite a bit, and it's not quite done yet. We have a cold front that's kind of moving down through Iowa, and that means we could see a pretty early frost overnight, so make sure to take care of anything that would be affected by that. And then tomorrow, we're looking at 50s across the state, so we're really digging into that fall sweater weather. So let's go ahead and take a look at what the National Weather Service has in store for the next 24 hours. As you can see from the National Weather Service, the whole state is going to cool off quite a bit. Today we have mostly sunny and breezy conditions, and it'll be much cooler in the northern parts of the state. Highs range from the upper 50s to low 70s. Tonight will be partly cloudy with widespread frost after 5 a.m. in northwest Iowa. Lows overnight range from the low 30s to about 40. And tomorrow, expect mostly clear skies and very cool temperatures across the state. Those highs ranging in the lower 50s. And taking a look at the affiliate weather map, as you can see for tomorrow, Cherokee will be mostly sunny with a high of 50. Shenandoah mostly sunny and 55. Des Moines mostly sunny and 55. Waterloo mostly sunny and 53. Albion mostly sunny and 55. And Clinton will be sunny with a high around 54. For more detailed forecasts in your part of the state, make sure to check in with your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliate. And that's been a check of the Ag Weather Outlook, and that also brings us to the end of this episode of Ag Matters PM. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. You can also follow us on social media at Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. And you can find all of our video content as well as previous episodes of AM PM on our YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell to see when those videos go live. Don't forget as well our free Twice Daily Market podcast on Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. From the IARN studios in Des Moines, I'm Riley Smith. On behalf of Mark Magnuson and Dustin Huffman, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.